Yo! Video games.
What up, dudes? Matt here with YoVideogames, and I'm back again with another hype check, this time for the long-awaited and anticipated Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Now, this is probably the Nintendo game with the most tumultuous development history in its life. At least that we know of. Like, maybe a game went in development longer and had a rougher behind the scenes, but it's hard to imagine anything than Metroid Prime 4. So just a little brief history. In 2017, Nintendo announced Metroid Prime 4 would be coming to the Switch. And then a little bit later, about a year and a half later, they announced that they had to cancel development of Metroid Prime 4 entirely and move it over to Retro Studios. Now, they never said officially who was making the original version of Metroid Prime 4, but we kind of have surmised from LinkedIn and employee profiles that it was mostly set up at Namco Bandai Shanghai, and then it was going to be made piecemeal at proxy other studios, or so the rumor went. Now, again, going by rumors, apparently Shanghai Namco, or Namco Shanghai, I know they won't like me not using Bandai, whatever, fuck them. But either way, they were the main studio, but other studios were going to do other parts of the game development. It was supposed to be like a conjoined effort. Now, going by the rumors, some studios were way ahead of where they needed to be, and some studios were way behind. Like the words used were some were doing great and some were a dumpster fire. So Nintendo had to pull the plug because when a game is being made piecemeal all over different studios and some of them are just not coming together at all, like they needed a unified, cohesive vision. So they canceled the project outright and then put the whole thing over to Retro Studios. So the only thing Nintendo will confirm, or at least acknowledge, is that Retro Studios was the studio put in charge of making Metroid Prime 4, which just made the most sense anyway, since they created Metroid Prime 1, 2, and 3. So it was almost weird that they weren't thought of it at first. But anyways, here we are, years later, nearly, over 6 years later, and it's finally done. And it's coming to the Switch 2 because it took so long to get out on the Switch 1 that they went ahead and made a Switch 2 version of the game as well. And, we got a little bit of a teaser last year, and we've gotten a big update now so we can actually see the game in motion. And, to be fair, like for a game that's been in development forever, even I didn't expect this game to be running at 4K 60 on the Switch 2 and 1080 and 120, as in 1080p, 120 frames per second on the Switch 2. That is some impressive shit. So hats off to Retro for getting a game to do that. And it actually looks pretty good. Some people have said that, oh my gosh, this game looks next gen even on Switch 1. It doesn't look next gen even on Switch 1. But it does look good. It does look good, and I don't want to take that away from the game. So we finally got to see like a hands-on of what I assume is the opening tutorial area, and all the Metroid games kind of do this. Heck, even Super Metroid did it, very briefly, with you going down to the lab and getting attacked by Ridley. Usually it's sort of the excuse for why does Samus lose all her powers. So in Metroid Prime 4, it's her answering a distress call from the Galactic Federation. And the thing that struck me the most is like, my God, this is Halo. I know the comparisons to Halo and Metroid Prime have never really escaped. It's just sort of the fact that Halo came out and was such a big, phenomenon for the original Xbox, and then Metroid Prime came a year later, and it was always like Nintendo fans versus Xbox fans, and it's kind of weird how Halo's basically like shit itself at this point, and Prime has also basically been stumbling in the dark, but it's coming back and it's looking like Halo. Maybe it's the Halo game Halo fans never got. I don't think that's quite the case, but again, even Halo fans were like, man, this really reminds me of Halo 3's opening or Halo 4's opening. Very cinematic, full use of voice acting, which Metroid Prime 3 did, which was kind of nice to see, because the original Prime had no voice acting, although I think there was some in the European version for scanning items, and it was just sort of text in garble, language for the moth people in Metroid Prime 2, but 3 had full-on voice acting for what little it did have. And 4 is continuing that trend, so unlike other Nintendo games, which seem just happy and complacent to act like it's still 1996 and we're still on cartridges, this one actually features some presentation value. So that's kind of cool. It's very cinematic. We're seeing mechs, we're seeing Galactic Federation troopers, we're seeing like full-scale war between the space pirates and the Federation troopers, and we even see returning characters. Again, I do not know why producer Kensuke Tanabe has such a hard-on for Silex, a just random jobber from Metroid Prime Hunters on the DS, but here we are, he's here, and he shows up and he gets his ass whooped very quickly in the demo we saw. I'm sure he'll be in the game more than just this intro level, but it is weird to see a producer attach himself so hard to a character for so damn long, and still find a way, even through multiple cancellations and reboots and just, you know, new systems, like, I will make sure this character ends up as like a major plot point in the next game. I guess hats off to you, buddy, but whatever. I don't think his design is really that cool. Don't kill me, Silex fans. All two of you out there, Tanabe included. But yeah, okay, just getting to let's get to meat and potatoes of the game. I've rambled on enough. The controls. Very cool that it has a sort of smart function where you can literally turn the right Joy-Con 2 on its side and it'll immediately go into mouse mode. So if the mouse sensor on it starts picking up that it's being moved across a flat surface, it immediately goes into mouse mode. Pretty cool. I would rather just set it to one way or another. I'm lucky enough that I have my gaming station set up where I also use my computer, so I think I'm going to try to play this whole game in mouse mode, where you move with the left Joy-Con, joystick on your left thumb, and then move in your right hand as a mouse. I am very excited and curious to play Metroid Prime 4 in mouse mode all the way through. I don't know, at the highest possible frame rate, 120 if I can. That's just so cool to me. So that's exciting to me. I can't really say much else about the game other than, yeah, it looks like Metroid Prime. You scan things, you watch, stuff happen in the background. Things are very moody and atmospheric. Samus looks cool. What has changed here? Not much. So that being said, again, this is going to be another one of those. This is going to really set a standard, probably, depending on when it comes out, but I don't see any other competition for first-person shooter mouse controls. Now, again, Metroid Prime is a first-person adventure subgenre by Nintendo's own definition, and yeah, there's going to be a lot of scanning, a lot of looking around, a lot of just puzzle-solving element. It's really not a white-knuckle shooter. This isn't Doom, and it's never tried to be, but funny enough, it's the game that is running at 120 frames that could benefit from it, but okay. No idea how her psychic powers are going to play with the mouse controls. I hope it doesn't lean too heavy on using gyro or mouse controls for, psychic powers like opening doors or moving objects in 3D space. I have a feeling Nintendo and Retro will be way too tempted, and they're going to want to try to make that like a major thing. But I can't. I just don't see that working as well as it ever wants to. So that's a sort of like, I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm dreading that's going to happen, but whatever. Hopefully it's not much more than Metroid Prime 3, where you just turn the doorknob and like push it in with the Wii remote. That was fine. It worked well enough in Prime 3. So I'm assuming it's going to be the same here for Prime 4. Again, graphically, this looks nice. It's using basically, it's going for art over major graphical effects and pushes. Obviously, this is not going to be some game with like all kinds of weird ray tracing and what have you on it. Although I say that now, and then lo and behold, a week later, they'll announce Metroid Prime 4 on the Switch 2 uses special new ray tracing features and exclusive to the Switch 2 version. I say that and it'll happen. But I'm just saying, like, the original Metroid Prime used absolutely no bump or normal mapping at the time, which was like, the in thing to do. And it actually benefited from it because the game still looked good and it ran really buttery smooth, even on the GameCube original. And they did that because they weren't trying to like choke the system with graphical effects. This is kind of something that's sort of like off tangent, but this plagues a lot of games, especially Unreal, with all the frame stutter issues we've had lately. So seeing this in action and seeing that, like, okay, yeah, it's just a good-looking Switch 1 game that just runs at a really high frame rate. We've optimized it to run at 60, even on the potato. So yeah, as far as like the boss battles, it's pretty basic stuff. Shoot the glowing orbs on the boss's belly, move out of the way. Nothing you haven't seen in any video game in the past 40 years. So that being said, it still looks good. It still looks fun. Again, this is going to be a big trial run for first-person shooters using the mouse controls, because I don't even know, beyond Cyberpunk, what other games are really using first-person shooter style methodology on the Switch 2 right now. I'm sure there's something and I'm just blanking on it, but Yeah, and I don't even know what Cyberpunk is doing as far as mouse controls go. I assume it'll be there, but I don't know. This is the game that's going to run at 120 frames at 1080 or 4K 60, which is something most PS5 games can't even do. So that being said, it is a Switch 1 game that is being up boosted to run on Switch 2, so there's a reason for that. Of course, I'm aware. But as far as like hype check goes or hype rating for this game goes, I'm going to be real, and it's probably an 8. And it's more of a tepid 8 because it's more like I expect this to be good because it's another retro developed Metroid Prime game. That being said, this is probably an entirely brand new team. I don't think anybody who worked on the original Metroid Prime is working on Prime 4. I don't know if anyone from Metroid Prime 3 is working on Prime 4. I'm under the assumption that most of Retro Studios that made Prime 4 is completely new people, but who knows? Maybe there's some veterans from the series that came back to finish this game off. But again, so what this really boils down to is I expect a really good game, I expect a really atmospheric game, I expect a very pretty game, and I expect a very smooth game. But I also like most Metroids, and I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I will play this. I will beat it in a weekend. I will never look at it again, which is not a fault of the game. It's just I enjoy Metroids like I enjoy most of my movies. I see them once, and that's usually it. But who knows? Maybe this game will be just so much fun to move around, and with the new controls that I'll just want to keep playing it. Maybe I'll want 100% it. Maybe I'll try to go for those speed run times because it's Metroid and it practically invented the speed run. So who knows? We'll see what happens here. Like it's exciting to see them push even further with presentation and story. That's like the only thing that's really differentiating this Metroid Prime from the others, even though 3 already kind of dipped their toe into that. And I'm just happy to see it finally come out. It's exciting times for Metroid fans. It looks like this is going to be a big fall game for for the Metroid crowd, at least the 3D loving Metroid crowd. If you're one who's like 2D only, well, there's 1,000 other Metroidvanias. Hell, Silk Song is supposed to come out this year on the Switch too, so we'll see. But that being said, my hype check is about an 8, but again, tepid 8, just because it's more Metroid Prime, and that's nothing but a good thing. But yeah, let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you on the channel. Later, dudes.